Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Tricks. And today we have a pretty big discussion about tricking and Spinjutsu. It's been a very hot topic in the tricking community, but I guess to fill everyone in who has somehow been under a rock and haven't seen this, there's been a petition to essentially change the name of tricking to Spinjutsu. Uh, this is really spearheaded by Chris Nato and a lot of the Atlanta boys, and it's been a discussion they've been having for a long time. Because, admittedly, the name tricking does suck, but I mean I don't think it's the worst
Yeah.
in the world. But
Let's open up the idea of the discussion. Like first, um, just the idea that tricking needs to have a name change at all. So this is sort of like there's two separate ideas going on here. One is that, as Frank mentioned here, tricking doesn't have the best name, which we'll talk about in a second. But the other is just the idea that there's something to be gained from changing the name in the first place, or that that's even possible. And I think that's something to discuss first before we even lay into tricking itself, the one that we actually have. So
and
first
then
of all,
wait,
okay.
before we get into the arguments, I actually do want to bring up, I guess, the history of I guess all the drama that's been going on, because KTL actually released a poll asking if we should change the name of tricking to Spinjitzu. Originally, tricking was leading the polls by a good margin. I want to say it was like 60 or 70%. Uh, were voting for tricking. But Chris Nato, for those who don't know, is a stunt double in Stranger Things. And it could have been through Caleb's own volition. I don't know if Chris talked to him or whatever it might be. But regardless, Caleb, one of the actors from Stranger Things, his name's Lucas in the show, he posted that everyone should vote for Spinjitzu. And that really made these polls pop off. And now to the point where I can't see the poll anymore. I don't know exactly where it is. Maybe it's because I'm on desktop. But it was, I want to say, upwards of like 60 to 70% were voting Spinjitzu. So it became like a whole thing. So we'll kind of get into, I guess, the
I want to really
veracity
quick
of the polls. But
touch on something that Kojo is saying here too
mm-hmm.
about like being more brandable than tricking, and it's because it's already been branded by the Lego company. Like,
Right.
yeah, that is why it is more brandable because it is an already pre-existing brand name.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would do it.
Oh man. All right. Well, okay. We'll get to that. So first, I guess, like Bryce said, we'll talk about, should we even change the name of tricking. So, like, what are the arguments for and against uh, changing the name of tricking? And I think the first one that comes up to most of our minds is like, oh, tricking gets confused with prostitution all the time. Like, I'll bring up tricking to an old person, for example, and they'll be like, that's not what I know tricking as. I know tricking as prostitution. And it's always like kind of a weird, awkward conversation and kind of explaining it to them. But
But
I don't know.
admittedly, it hasn't been a conversation that's ever lasted any longer than that one first interaction, anytime that it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I have personally only ever had that interaction with people who are like 40 and older. I've
Mm-hmm.
never had that interaction with anyone in their 30s or younger.
Yeah, my experience is typically similar to Bryce's. It's older people who aren't familiar with it, and then in addition, once I explain what tricking is, it typically clicks. Like they understand it is a type of martial arts acrobatics movement sport that,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah,
is highly dangerous.
I also think, I don't know, it's just like a fine conversation. Like, we just make some jokes about it. Haha, it does sound like prostitution. But then I just explain it, and then, like, I don't know. They're like, oh, that's cool. Like, tell me more about it. Like, it's, I don't know. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It's just be a normal person and talk about things in a normal way. So,
I think
Many,
another
many,
argument.
many words mean many different things in many contexts. Some of them are sometimes provocative, we'll say.
mm-hmm.
That's all right. That's no obstacle to using those words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like it provides tricking the opportunity to reclaim those words too. It's an argument we can use later, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think largely tricking has established itself with that identity.
That's
But
fair. To be fair, though, tricking is kind of like not a great name in general. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I saw, yeah, Josuke was here, and he he said that the word tricking comes from tricks plus kicking, which I'm like 90% certain that's not the
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's
As
just
far as talking tricks knows,
yeah.
the term tricking literally comes from back when NASCA sport karate people wanted to train specifically the trick parts of their kata, the parts that weren't about doing their their hand forms or any of their specific martial arts movements, but literally doing like round off back handsprings or 540s or snafu swipes as they eventually were doing. Like that's those things they called those tricks, and then they called doing sessions where they trained those specifically tricking sessions.
Yeah. But it is kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of shitty just as a name. It's not, it's kind
It's
of
not
generic.
descriptive.
Yeah. But it's gotten like a mind of its own, for lack of a better term. Like
Yeah,
people have now
it's
started
developed
associating.
momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah.
It's developed momentum, but yeah, we can all agree that it's not exactly a creative name. It's like it doesn't have a whole lot of artistic value to itself, considering that it's meant to be describing an incredibly artistic sport. And it's also not especially specific, right? Like there are when you say tricks and tricking, and someone doesn't think gay prostitution, and they instead think of like something that actually has to do with performing tricks, just immediately in their mind. They might not immediately go to acrobatic tricks like we would be wanting them to think. They might go to like card tricks or even skateboard tricks or magic tricks or something like that, and that's just another reflection of the fact that like tricking's name is kind of ambiguous.
Yeah, that's something that Chris Nato brings up later, but like, yeah, we wouldn't need something to separate us from like skateboard tricks and magic tricks. But we'll talk about that specific thing in a bit. But I guess that's really all the arguments we have for changing the name of tricking, right? Can you guys think of any others?
No, and I think that it
Um,
becomes a one of our like arguments against changing the name is that there's no real need to change the name. Like there's no like high demand. Like we're not all clamoring for a new name for tricking as necessary. Like, there's bigger problems to solve.
Yeah, I think it started to get its own momentum in the sense that I don't know. I feel like the more people I talk to right now, and I bring up tricking, and like it's my first time talking to them, there's more and more people that are like, "Oh yeah, I know someone who does tricks, or I know what tricking is, or I've heard about it." Um,
Seen it, online or
yeah,
something.
so it's really building up its own momentum, and it's done this over the past 30 plus years. And so, like, I don't know. I think it'd be a shame to kind of throw that away, personally. Like, it's already
I
starting to get there.
I also don't think it's going to be as easy as just a bunch of people, even popular people in tricking, deciding that it's going to be called Spinjutsu now.
Oh, it's so hard to
I,
get people to
I don't
agree.
think, yeah, I think that the people who are trying to change the name don't appreciate how difficult it is to change something that was essentially community decided to begin with. Right? Like, there is no leader who you can go to and demand that they call this now, and that in all special reports gets called this now. At most, you'll have a bifurcation. Two different groups that split off. One calls it one thing, Spinjutsu, and the other calls it tricking, even though they may be doing the same thing. And it will just be left to everybody to figure out that everybody means the same thing, but with two different words. But there still
That'll be
doesn't
fun.
necessarily have to be a reason for people to change to any one particular one at that point,
What
because
would
either
it
one is acceptable.
what would it get you guys to eventually just call it Spinjitzu? Like, do you need like 70% of the population's calling it
Well, I
Spinjitzu?
mean,
Do you need
like
like
it.
80%?
I would always call it tricking, even if
Yeah.
not, even
Even
if
if
I
like
was the only
That's
man,
99%.
even if I was the
that's
only
the
man
old
left who
head.
spoke the truth,
Yeah,
I
that's
would
the
call
old
it
head in me
tricking.
is to say,
Yeah.
like, always call it tricking. But I'm glad you're bringing up like percentages of the community and stuff because like with this vote, like you had mentioned, there was like a high influx of people voting for, Spinjutsu to be the name. But as Bryce mentioned in our discussion of this, like it, it's hard to imagine that that huge influx is all the people who are like
Triggers.
committed or yeah trickers or invested in the sport to the level that a lot of us are who have been in franchise for years.
Yeah, it's kind of odd if don't you don't do a sport to have designs on what the people who do that sport should call themselves or call the sport. because it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. And to be
So
clear,
I
Caleb does practice tricking, like he has
no
been
no
to
no exactly,
sessions,
and I'm not. This isn't about
but
Caleb specifically, but
yeah.
his audience is Stranger Things. Not everybody who watches Stranger Things, and in fact, a majority of people who watch Stranger Things are not trickers. And if those
Yeah.
are the people who he's calling to the poll to vote, then that at best makes this poll unreliable.
Yeah.
And
And
at
like
worst,
I don't want to take this too seriously. Like this was funny.
yeah,
Like this is a funny
it's a joke.
moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's
But
like really just like a
but
meme. But
if we're being serious about like should this poll deter it if we change the name tricking, like definitely not. Like even I don't know. I think any poll like is going to be subject to different
Abuse.
biases. Yeah, not even that. Like even if it was all trickers who like chose it, it's going to be certain trickers that chose it that
yeah,
follow
exactly. You'll have
Kojo's.
self-selection bias. Going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I'm never gonna base the changing the name of tricking off of one
Yeah.
poll on Instagram. This was funny though. Dude.
Learn
Like this whole
statistics, everybody. Learn
Yeah,
statistics.
so it's like for me, it's hard to take this as like genuinely serious when it just feels like a whole bunch of rage bait, and also like the arguments aren't really the best for changing the name. And that's just my like overall personal opinion on
yeah.
the this topic.
And what are the arguments for and against changing names? I guess that's what we should kind of get into.
Yes.
But
Yes, indeed.
We had
yeah.
kind of touched on some of them just in our previous, like just talking about it now, but like, the history established, like we're going to be losing out on like the legitimate martial arts roots that have like established the sport and its identity, like from the core, and like just go with something that has like potential mass appeal or larger appeal that, but loses out on the meaning of like tricking.
Yeah, I mean the appeal to history kind of I understand why that's an argument, but it doesn't really appeal to me as much because like I don't know, like if something's gonna be good for the future of tricking and we have to ditch some of the history, like I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. But yeah,
I also agree that like there's you could definitely come up with a name that was somehow better, and if you could demonstrate that, then I would get over my attachment to tricking for its historical sake in exchange for that. But that historical weight does have some value to it, and what it does mean is that whatever the new name is going to be, it has to be good. It has to be good enough to justify itself. And as long as there's going to be some subjective component to the argument for these things, I do not think that Spinjutsu justifies itself. I
But-
think, and to be very clear here and very concrete and explicit, I think it is cringe. It is.
that's actually one of our core arguments is that
Yeah.
Bryce thinks it's
I like one thing I want to ask is like we're talking about like it being like a good change for tricking is like what like we still haven't really established, in my opinion, a good enough reason to change the name of tricking. So changing the name doesn't really accomplish a whole lot of anything. Like
yeah.
potential like marketability of the sport eventually for sure. But with Spinjitzu in particular, like potential legal ramifications of like, you know, advertising an event with it with the word Spinjitzu, even if it's not spelt exactly the same as
Yeah.
like the trademark registered, you know.
From the perspective of trying to become more marketable by giving up connotations, potentially like unsavory connotations, by then replacing them with potential copyright infringement is like that's a silly way to deal with that problem. And there are theoretically other names that one could come up with which wouldn't have that problem and therefore would be a better solution to this.
Yeah, and yeah, potentially is doing a little heavy lifting in Bryce's sentence there. We have tried to dig into this, and we are not legal experts at all. But I personally could not find proof that Spinjitzu itself is trademarked or copyrighted. Ninjago is, of course. The Google AI says it is, but like I don't really trust the AI. And whenever I go on the Chris brought up the USPTO, which I think is like the Patent and Trademark Office of the United States. You cannot find Spinjitzu there. So,
But I also
So, yeah.
want to express too like that may or may not be the right way to like research this topic.
Exactly.
We
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
We're not
Yeah,
legal experts.
it may simply be that Spinjutsu being a concept and name that is associated with Ninjago in any way is enough to trigger its copyright and trademark infringement. That may be the case.
Yeah,
We
I feel
literally have no idea.
I feel that they would have a strong argument against our use of it. Like,
Yes.
If any legal people want to, I guess, say
Yeah,
something
chime in
here
Yeah.
and
here.
give an
Are there any
explanation.
are there
we
any
would
trigger
really
lawyers?
appreciate
Like,
that.
Yeah, there's trigger lawyers.
we need someone to weigh in on the copyright logistics of Spinjitsu.
Of Spinjutsu, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. This is
It's
not what I
really
went to
settled
school
this
for.
discussion.
Yeah, this isn't it. This not that I went to
And
school.
I'm
but-
very glad it's not what I went to school for. It illegal shit just like bores me. But all right. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is a fun name though, to be fair. Spinjitsu. I think it merges, spinning and jutsu, meaning technique, but also associated with a lot of like martial artsy stuff, Naruto.
martial artsy.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it does have the connotation of martial arts. It's also a play on words of ninjutsu, right? So it's like, oh, we're like ninjas or something. I think it's a fun name. I think it is very creative. If it didn't already come up, if it wasn't
Already created by someone else.
exactly.
Have we? Yeah. Lest we forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like it for that. Is it a little bit silly? Yeah, it is. But I kind of like silly stuff sometimes.
I think it's exactly what the sport would be called if it was named. If all names for it were only allowed to be weighed in by people who are 14 or younger. I think that's exactly what we would wind up with.
But okay, and then what?
Another argument that Chris made in this exact post is about like people detesting the silliness of the name Spinjitsu, but being okay with some ridiculous trick names, and that's also kind of like a speak for yourself thing, because I think all of Talking Tricks agrees that like we're really not on board with these ridiculous names for tricks like Snatch Cannon, Minge Mulcher, Frappe, and Macaron,
I forgot
or
about
whatever.
Yeah.
We're not even on board for Dub 10. So.
Yeah, so
we're very
there's
clinical here on Talking Tricks.
Yeah, so a lot of this is like, I don't know. I also don't feel like, okay, what does whimsy bring to tricking that the word tricking doesn't already like bring? Like, I don't see a lot of like whimsical tricks or tricking styles being done. Like I see it occasionally, but I don't know. I think tricking wants to take itself a little bit more seriously than whimsy.
Lately, it
or at
feels
least
like
have
that's
the,
been
or
the
at least have the,
case.
or at least have the option to. Yeah, like I think you might be alienating a lot of people by trying to build into tricking the idea that it is unserious.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Because like a serious athlete is just going to ignore you, go on and continue doing what they're doing, call what they're doing tricking, and like that's going to make what you do less relatable to the people who are interested in that kind of.
I don't know, that has always kind of been the charm of tricking to me. I like how unserious we take ourselves. I love that, like,
We kind of don't need
whenever-
like a name for our name being tricking
Yeah.
is never an obstacle to that, right? Like
Yeah.
that is never an issue for preventing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know. I like the
But then when you want to lock in, when you want to feel like the air is starting to change pressure around you, you're starting to go Super Saiyan, you're about to really blow away a combo on the floor, then you can do that for a moment and pretend like you weren't just an absolute goofball for the past like 3 hours straight.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that aspect of tricking. This is actually, Jacoby brought this up in one of his videos, exactly what you said, Jason, about all the different names and tricks, like Snatch Cannon and stuff like that. He's like, dude, I don't even use those anyway. Like, I don't like those names.
Yeah, those are all those
Exactly,
are all
fuck
really
that.
bad, and like they suffer the same issue that like Spinjitsu does. They're just these wild zany names that don't really describe what's happening. Like, I mean, okay, it's Spinjitsu, Frank, like your argument. Like, I guess there is a lot of like rotation occurring, but I'll also say that it like the name is pretty childish and is also like.
Would you say that it's cringe?
I would say it's
potentially?
cringe. I would say it's cringe.
I think you might say that it's cringe.
I would, it's gives the McDojo vibes. Like
Yeah, you're not
like
wrong.
I get a Spinjitsu character in my Happy Meal.
Yeah. I just got my yellow belt in Spinjitsu, and they give me a little Lego.
Yeah, like man, I don't know. Maybe I take tricking too seriously, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that just not it.
My mom calls it
Um,
competitive twirling. I love that actually. I think I've used
it's
twirling before.
But
that's like
what about the non-competitive part of it? Because it's not very competitive most of
That's
the time.
true. Football, soccer vibe. Sorry, I'm reading some of these comments. Football, so we could do both according to Q. Which I mean, I don't know. I think people are just going to pick one or the other. One of the other arguments that Chris brought up was that we could still call it tricks and tricking. We just append Spinjutsu to it. So like, oh, I'm going to
Yeah,
go do some Spinjutsu
we
tricks.
will still call it
but
tricks and
why?
tricking.
Like
But we
why? What does it
we
accomplish?
and we won't append Spinjutsu to it because that
Yeah.
would literally just make it take longer to say for no added value.
Yeah, humans famously just like pick the shortest route to say things. Like we're not if we could say either tricking or Spinjitzu tricking, we're gonna say tricking. Like there's no same reason why we don't say martial arts tricking every time. We just say it like I don't know when we're talking to someone new or something. Which that might be his argument. That might be like oh whenever we talk to someone new, it's like oh yeah I do Spinjitzu tricks, and then like you know in your daily life you say yeah I'm doing some tricks. Which I don't know. I feel like when I say I'm gonna go do tricks, that really tells you all you need to know, especially
yeah.
within our context of like, yeah, you're gonna go do tricking. You're not gonna.
It-
You're a tricker, Frank. You're not gonna start doing magic tricks in front
Yeah,
of me.
exactly.
When you say,
There's like a canonical choice for what tricks refer to now. We established it. We own that shit. We put a flag in the word tricking, and now it refers
And now
specifically
not only that,
without
we're like
without qualification. It refers to acrobatic tricks.
and we are
So
now like representatives of that, right? Like we extend what that means and like what that looks like for like normal subculture or normal culture in general for our subculture.
yeah. But yeah, this is also just a divisive topic. I think that's also kind of a con of it. It's just gonna be hard to get everyone to agree to this. Which, to be fair, some things that are good are gonna be divisive, and some things that do necessitate that change might be an uphill battle that's difficult.
Yes,
But
something that potentially solves problems may even not necessarily be accepted unanimously, but I think any name that would have a chance of being successfully a replacement for tricking would have to be accepted nearly by at least a really large majority
what?
of the people who heard about it.
So
Like
we're
So
really, really large.
what's up, Jason?
I wanted to say two things. I'm like just reading this comment, about Luke Cable's comment, like branding being one of the most like viable arguments for it, and how it isn't really any more brandable than tricking already is. Where tricking one will establish its own identity apart from whatever Spinjitzu has already previously established in cultural zeitgeist, and then here also like like tricking while it isn't like the best name because it's not very descriptive of what's happening, it's very quick, it's very punchy, and it is like technically like it's available and free for us to use as to make with what we will of it, rather than necessarily just say, you know, it doesn't look like spinning or whatever like spin jutsu would imply, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I also kind of want to hit on something that Bryce just said. I know we talked about earlier, like how much of I asked you guys, like, how much of the percent of the tricking community would it take for you to start referring to it as Spinjitzu? And honestly, I think for me, I think it would reach a point maybe like around 85 to 90%. Like if 85 to 90% of people were calling it Spinjitzu, I don't know. I think that's how language and words work. It's like when the majority of people are referring to something in a certain way, that's just what it is now.
Yeah.
So I would probably start calling it Spinjitzu if like that many people were saying it. Maybe even less than that, honestly. 70% is actually a lot. So
Now, okay, let me introduce some. So let's assume that the people who are calling it that, like 80%/90% of people, not trickers, but just of people in general who know of tricking and see what you're doing, they call it that. But that's just because now everybody knows about tricking. and
That
the only
changes
people who
the
call it
calculus.
tricking now the only people who call it tricking are trickers, but the everybody else who doesn't trick calls it spinjutsu. Are you still going to call it spinjutsu?
No, that changes the calculus for me. I think it definitely should be determined by the people who practice the sport or have historically practiced the sport too. And yeah, I don't really care about Muggles' opinions or like just people who are like onlookers or fans. Man, I'm trying to think of like situations where that wouldn't be the case. Like I'm trying to think of like if in football, like fans suddenly started not calling it football. I think they have a lot of sway there financially, so it's like maybe that's a situation where it'd be easier to make that switch. But I don't know. When it comes to such a small sport like this, I think it needs to be the trickers who are deciding it.
Yeah, well, it's like I refuse to believe that we can just be told what we're doing, like to change the name of what we're doing constantly on the whim of a group of people who have no investment in this thing.
Yeah, and I think most
So
trickers would agree with you.
Or even just a small group of people who do have an investment on this thing and think, oh, this is a funny idea, well, you should
yeah,
do it.
also that because that's really just as in a way it's just as arbitrary when there really is a history established and or there isn't. Again, the name that's being suggested isn't so good that everybody suddenly just all agrees like, yeah, I guess that really is the right name for this thing ultimately.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what it would take because I'm trying to like put myself in Chris's shoes, and it's like I
So
want.
for me, from my perspective, as like someone who, like lately isn't really engaged with tricking or the tricking community, like I couldn't ever see myself calling it Spinjitzu. For me, like if like I feel like a general disconnect from the general tricking community in general, partially because of my inactivity, but also just like ridiculous things like this. Like I just like am in like a disagreements and with like a lot of nonsense. And so stuff like this kind of just is like, I don't know. I would never call it Spinjitzu. I'd probably just be like, yeah, I was a tricker at one point and that was it. And I don't know what Spinjitsu is. Sorry, man.
Yeah, are we just old heads? Is this what we don't understand about this? We're just not. We're just not.
I yeah, I
We're just
guess
washed up
so.
and not as active. That's a potential thing to take into account for
Just
any
out of
viewers
touch.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, and that may be the case. Maybe I'm out of touch, and maybe tricking is just like and I'm naturally pushing me out, and that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, like, even though I don't trick as often, I still try to keep my finger on the pulse of tricking, and I talk to trickers all the time. I don't know. I still
We're
feel like
obviously called spinners now. Oh my god.
spinners is great.
Somehow worse.
Yeah,
Yes.
doesn't spinners also have some kind of sexual
Yes.
connotation? I'm pretty certain that's the case. So like that would actually be frustrating if we decided to do a name change because we're associated with something sexual and it became something
And it
sexual
became
anyway.
something sexual anyway. Yeah.
Dude, I'd be
I,
so
and I think
pissed.
I think
it's just
spinner
destiny.
is more like actively used today than tricking is, and like in that context,
Yeah. Spinner person meaning. How about
you're
that?
gonna have to like Urban Dictionary this.
If that were the case, then it'd be
Well-
kind of like the Final Destination movies.
You're
Like,
gonna
no
have to
matter
Urban
what we try to
Dictionary
do
it.
as to escape our fate,
Yeah.
that's going to happen to us.
Let's see. Yeah, a petite woman, denoted as a joke, able to be mounted and spun in a circle. Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, maybe
all
we'll
right
cut that
then.
part out. Got it.
I was yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I am a spinner. All right. Anyway, I don't know. I do we have any other arguments to think about? I'm trying to. I'm trying to be as charitable to both sides as possible, but like, I think it's pretty clear, to anyone watching this episode that we're pretty much on the side of keeping tricking as the name of tricking.
Yeah.
Because
I also like I don't think that any of us are like explicitly opposed to changing the name though. It's just like there's got to be good reason and there has to be like things that are like improved as a result. Like but it just I fail to see what that is right now.
You need a very high barrier proof to change the name of tricking. Like I like the name tricking. I think it's fine. I wouldn't be opposed if someone had like an insane groundbreaking whatever
Sure. Yeah,
name
I'd
that
be
they
I'm
come up with,
open to hearing something cooler for tricking, but like It's Spinjutsu, isn't it? For sure.
The argument against like, oh, but Spinjutsu, it's so cringy. It's just like, okay, well, we like fight invisible fucking ninjas all the time. Like we're Power Rangers. We're
That
cringy anyway. Like
Speak for
that
yourself.
yeah, I've never envisioned myself fighting invisible ninjas or Power Rangers.
that's
I've like
crazy. I have
no, dude. I like sessions for me are all about channeling inner self belief and building like that adrenaline and executing. Like it's strictly performance for me. Like that's how
It's
I've
about circles
yeah.
for me.
Dude,
So
I'm
big
like
circles.
I'm fucking ang whenever I'm tricking. I'm like doing different airbending moves. It's awesome. You should try it actually. It's fun. Yeah, dude. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, all the Georgia boys, they're very much for Spinjitzu. I think it's become like kind of a groupthink thing. I would say I'm not as much for it, but I don't know. I'm also don't have like super strong opinions, to be honest. Like, whatever.
Yes, you do have very lukewarm opinions, Frank.
Yeah.
Yes, the perpetual fence sitter, Frank.
I love being a fence sitter.
You ever get sore up there?
That's why I'm a spinner.
I saw that coming. I literally saw it coming.
Oh man. But yeah,
Just spun on the fence post.
that's me. The one who doesn't have any strong opinions. But yeah, I don't know. I guess you guys in the comments let us know what you think. Should we change the name of Trick to Spinjitzu?
Are we just old and need to be pushed out of tricking by Spinjitzu?
Are there any arguments that we missed? Like, please say the pros and cons that we didn't talk about. But I don't know. I think we try to be as charitable as possible, but
While keeping in mind that ultimately, like, much of this disagreement is going to come down to a difference in the subjective evaluation of these names, and that also should be factored in by any arguments on either side.
yeah.
But they won't be, Bryce. That's the best part.
No.
There was the funny thing about this whole drama, to be fair, was that there was a lot of like shit slinging basically in like stories and stuff like that, and Chris Nato was like posting a story with other people and being like, yeah, well, I'm top 16, bitch, and then they're like, but you suck at tricking, and it was
Oh
really,
my god! Oh no! Oh man!
it was really entertaining actually. I really enjoyed watching it, but it's just
That's all way too serious, guys. We're talking about the name of tricking.
yeah. If you guys have any ideas, let us know in the comments. But I think that's about it for us.
Yeah, propose better names than Spinjutsu, because we're totally open to if there is like actually a better name for tricking out there that we've all just not been using all these years because no one's taken the time to think of it. But you got it. Yeah, we're all ears.
Yeah.
We're interested.
All right. Catch you guys later.